And this is the part that's going to make you really angry. The Australian government has agreed to provide them with full security paid for by the Australian government and the Australian people. That should make you angry, because we know that Harry and Meghan do not go into this semi-quasi-royal tours just for funsies if they don't have full-blown motorcade security type.
What is the real reason as to why, essentially, from the looks of things, Prince Hazard ditched Megxie for his Angola trip? Because let's put it this way, right? Prince Hazard recreated that famous Princess Diana landmine walk. And if we know anything about Megxie, it's that she, allegedly, loves to cosplay Princess Diana. You think that she would want to miss out on an easy way to be able to cosplay Princess Diana and make headlines around the world by trying to, attempt the same walk that Princess Diana did? Not a freaking chance. So what kept her back? What kept her back? What kept her from travelling with Hazard to Angola? What the deuce is really going on?
Imagine you wake up one morning in Canberra and the Prime Minister himself is on the phone to Buckingham Palace, being told in no uncertain terms, remove them immediately. Not requested, ordered by the King. Harry and Meghan Markle booted out of Australia like common frauds after staging what is now being called the most audacious fake royal tour in history. Stay with me, because this is no longer gossip. This is constitutional warfare. Sources inside Government House confirm it happened last Thursday night. The Sussexes landed in Sydney on a private jet. No royal flight, no Union Jack on the tail. They then spent 4 days gliding through Melbourne, Brisbane, and Canberra, wearing crowns that don't belong to them, accepting military salutes they have no right to receive, and allowing themselves to be announced as His Royal Highness Prince Henry and Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex. In Australia, a Commonwealth realm where the only person who decides who is royal is the King, and the King had not been consulted, not once. By Saturday morning, Charles had seen the footage. Meghan stepping out of a motorcade in a £15,000 Oscar de la Renta gown, curtsying to no one, while Aboriginal elders were told to bow to her. Harry inspecting a guard of honor from the Australian Defence Force, troops who swear allegiance to the crown, not to a couple of Netflix stars. One senior courtier told me, and I quote, "His Majesty watched the clips in silence, then simply said, 'This ends now.'" Within hours, the King's private secretary was on a secure call to the Australian Prime Minister. The message was brutal in its brevity. "They are private citizens. They are not representing me. Remove them from the country, or I will regard it as a constitutional breach of the realm."
In the country they're visiting, they did that with Colombia. In Colombia, it cost the Colombian people almost $4 million for that joke of a trip. In Nigeria, heads of state reception, they had full motorcade following them everywhere. Harry inspected the guards. They had a farewell dinner with God Save the King national anthem, treated as their royal highnesses. And the same thing happened just now in Jordan, where they received full-on heads of state security detail. They were addressed as the royal highnesses. They were greeted by the British ambassador, who hosted a reception the evening they arrived. And it was for them, contrary to what the public is saying. Now, if you want to chuckle a little bit more, Harry's also attending a seminar. And I had to...
Let us be absolutely clear about who orchestrated this farce. This was not Harry's idea. Everyone who has ever spent 5 minutes in a room with Meghan Markle knows exactly how this works. She decides. She directs. She casts herself as the star. And Harry, poor broken Harry, simply nods along because the alternative is another screaming match in Montecito that ends with him sleeping in the guest guest cottage again. This tour was Meghan's fantasy coronation. She wanted to wear the invisible crown she believes was stolen from her in 2020. She wanted the curtsies, the 21-gun salutes, the little girls in the crowd holding signs that say, "We love you, Princess Meghan." She wanted to cosplay as the queen she was never going to be, and for 4 glorious days, Australia let her, until the actual king said no. What people don't realize is how surgically precise Charles's move was. Harry and Meghan entered Australia on standard visas. They are not protected by diplomatic immunity. They are not heads of state. The moment the king withdrew recognition of them as working royals, publicly, formally, irrevocably, every protocol officer in Canberra realized they were imposters. One Australian minister told me off the record, "We were told if we continued to treat them as royals, the Crown would regard it as a hostile act against the monarchy itself." Think about that. Charles threatened to trigger a constitutional crisis in a Commonwealth realm rather than let Meghan play dress-up for one more day.
Well, let's get to this clip from GB News. And so they're speaking to royal expert Ingrid Seward. And why is she saying that Hazza left Megxit behind? Let's watch this.
Today marks Queen Camilla's birthday as Her Majesty turns 78.
Yes, this new photograph you could see of the Queen at her private Wiltshire home has been released to mark the occasion. We also had some gun salutes in her honour to celebrate, because why not? It is her 78th. We're joined now by the royal expert and biographer Ingrid Seward. Now, Ingrid, just to start on Prince Harry being in Angola. Now, I have seen people saying out there, I think there was a piece in the Daily Mail I read, saying that he's chosen not to bring Meghan with him because he needs to very much forge his own path and he wants to rekindle ties with the royal family and all of this. Is there any truth to that?
They were escorted to Sydney Airport by federal police. No motorcade this time. 2 black SUVs. No flags. Meghan reportedly refused to get out of the car for 20 minutes, screaming at staff that this was racism and punishment for leaving. Harry just stared out the window, pale, silent, looking like a man who has finally realized he married a woman who would rather burn the Commonwealth to the ground than admit she is no longer royal. Oh, and spare me the Netflix statement that's coming. We all know it's already written. Deeply saddened, blah blah, victimized again, colonial undertones, mental health. Save it, darling. You don't get to hijack a sovereign nation's military, demand curtsies from indigenous elders, and then cry racism when the king calls you out for the grifting fraud you are. This wasn't a royal tour. This was a hostage situation with better lighting. Make no mistake, Charles has just drawn a line in blood-red sand. From this day forward,
Write it down, guys, because I couldn't believe it. Harry is attending the seminar for, and it's here, psychosocial safety and mental health at the workplace. Harry and Meghan, 2 of the world's biggest bullies. Meghan has even been investigated in the United Kingdom, and the report is so bad that even the royal family won't publish it because they know the report is bad. And in the United States, Vanity Fair, that article. So at least Meghan Markle is an equal opportunity bully. She bullies everywhere she goes. She has had such high turnover of employees that, I mean, at this point, 11 PR companies and PR people have dumped this woman because she is unworkable. Nobody can work with this bully.
any country that treats Harry and Meghan as royals will be seen as taking sides against the crown. Canada will be watching. New Zealand will be watching. 14 Commonwealth realms just received the clearest message of this reign. The king will tolerate no rival firm, no shadow court, no American duchess LARPing as queen across his dominions. And here's the part I genuinely savor. flavor. For years, Meghan has told anyone who will listen that the palace is a racist, misogynistic prison and that she was forced to flee for her life. Well, sweetheart, you just begged to be let back in. You flew halfway across the world to wear a tiara that isn't yours and accept honors you forfeited. And the king didn't just say no. He had you deported. The sound you hear? That's the sound of your entire victimhood narrative collapsing in real time. So here we are.
He doesn't want to chase for it. He doesn't want it. He's not on the same line as Megxie. As Megxie allegedly wants the Hollywood fame, he doesn't. He just wants to focus on charity, being a humanitarian or whatever, right? And knows that if he brings Megxie along with him, that she's going to ruin it. Firstly, just by being there. Secondly, with what she'll do when she gets there, right? And what she'll say, because she just ruins it anyway, to be fair, with what she does and what she says. And thirdly, maybe he's realised that being attached to Megxie when it comes to his charity endeavours might not be the best move after all. Now, this is the thing. Not only has Hazza recently ditched Megxie when it comes to his Angola trip, but interestingly, it seems that he's also ditched her when it comes to these peace talks too. And so here we've got this article.
The Duchess of Sussex, kicked out of a country whose head of state is her father-in-law for the crime of pretending she still matters to the institution that discarded her. Harry once said he wanted to be left alone. Well, Your Royal Highness, be careful what you wish for, because after today, the only people still curtsying to Meghan Markle will be the paid staff in Montecito, and even they are probably laughing behind her back. King Charles didn't just deport them, he annihilated them. And the best part? He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He's the king, and she is just Meghan now. Let me tell you about the phone call that changed everything. 2:47 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. King Charles III personally rings the Governor-General of Australia, wakes him up, and delivers 7 words that will echo through Commonwealth history. Get those frauds out of my realm. Not Harry and Meghan, those frauds. What you're about to hear is the systematic dismantling of the biggest con Meghan Markle has ever tried to pull off. And trust me, she's pulled a few. 3 weeks ago, whispers started circulating in Sydney society circles.
So Harry, of all hypocritical things, is going to preach safety and well-being at the workplace. Well, him and his skanky wife are the cause of most of these people's mental health breakdown. I mean, and they're paid for this. They're getting paid for this. Meghan Markle is getting paid. At least she's flying private plane. Wink, wink. And this was all organized for Meghan Markle to come because she wasn't even supposed to come and tag along here. But she's tagging along Marcus Anderson, her pimp. And I'm going to say her pimp because this is my fucking channel. Her pimp arranged for her to do that. My Living Her Best Life podcast. Why?
Invitations were being sent, elegant cream cardstock, embossed gold lettering. You are cordially invited to attend a reception in honor of their Royal Highnesses, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Recipients were confused. Were Harry and Meghan back in royal duties? Had there been some reconciliation with the king? Calls were made to Buckingham Palace, and here's where it gets delicious. The palace had no idea what anyone was talking about. 0 correspondence, 0 approval, 0 authorization. Someone was planning a royal tour and had forgotten to tell the king. Documents leaked to Australian intelligence services reveal the whole sordid operation. A Sussex Foundation entity registered in Delaware, because of course it's Delaware, had contracted an events company in Melbourne to organize what was described internally as a royal engagement experience. The budget? $12 million, funded by mystery donors later traced to Hollywood production companies and, wait for it, potential Netflix docuseries investors. This wasn't a tour. This was a filming location. They were shooting content, using Australia's government buildings as sets, using actual dignitaries as extras. And Meghan, oh Meghan, was the executive producer of her own coronation fantasy. Day 1, Sydney Opera House. Meghan emerges in ivory Dior. Waves that aren't quite royal waves, but close enough to fool Americans. She's introduced as Her Royal Highness by a hired announcer who was paid £8,000 for 3 days' work and told explicitly to use those titles. Military veterans stood in formation. School children waved Union Jacks, and Meghan accepted it all with the serene smile of someone who genuinely believes the world owes her a throne. Harry looked uncomfortable. He always does now, like a hostage blinking Morse code behind her smile. But he went along with it. He shook hands. He inspected troops who shouldn't have been there. And that is where the king drew blood. When footage hit social media, Buckingham Palace went into crisis mode. Not the performative crisis we saw during Oprah. Real crisis. Constitutional lawyers were summoned at midnight. The Lord Chamberlain personally reviewed every second of footage, and what they saw was legally categorized as fraudulent impersonation of Crown representatives. In layman's terms, identity theft. Meghan and Harry were impersonating working royals in a Commonwealth realm where the legal framework recognizes only one sovereign authority, and that authority had given no permission. Here's what nobody's reporting. Charles didn't just ask Australia to deport them. He invoked a clause in the royal prerogative that hasn't been used since 1953. Subsection 7 of the Commonwealth Relations Directive allows the reigning monarch to demand immediate removal of any person falsely representing the crown in a realm nation. It's an emergency constitutional lever, and Charles pulled it without hesitation. The Australian government had 48 hours to comply or face formal diplomatic censure and potential suspension from certain Commonwealth privileges.
This latest quasi-royal trip is being questioned after Page 6 revealed that the couple has essentially shuttered their Royal Foundation and let go nearly of all their staffers. They spent 2 days in Jordan on this humanitarian visit to the World Health Organization, who invited them to the Middle East. They were pictured meeting young Palestine patients evacuated from Gaza for medical treatment. Now, Page 6 understands, and this is some of the juicy stuff here. The pair flew commercial, not by private jet. Interesting. One, if that's true, I'm sure they did not enjoy that. They were probably still first class. But do you believe that? I mean, the flight log should be able to help us prove that. So I'm curious if anybody out there has done the due diligence more than I had a chance to yet.
Picture this: a nondescript office in Whitehall. Tuesday morning, 6:15 a.m. A classified diplomatic pouch arrives from Canberra. Inside, 247 pages of documented evidence that Meghan Markle orchestrated what intelligence analysts are calling the most brazen royal impersonation scheme in modern Commonwealth history. By 9 a.m., those documents were on King Charles's desk. By noon, he'd activated deportation protocols. By sunset, the Sussexes were persona non grata across 14 nations. What's in those files? Everything. And I mean everything. It started innocuously enough. Australian Border Force flagged an anomaly. Private jet manifests for TRH Duke and Duchess of Sussex listing diplomatic privileges they no longer possess. Customs declarations citing official royal business for duty-free import of over £200,000 in clothing and jewelry. Hotel bookings under Crown Suite allocation, a designation reserved exclusively for working members of the royal family. One sharp-eyed immigration officer asked the obvious question: has Buckingham Palace confirmed this visit? The answer that came back was crisp and devastating. Buckingham Palace has no record of any authorized Sussex engagements. Investigate immediately. And investigate they did. What they uncovered reads like a screenplay Meghan probably wishes she'd written. email chains between Sussex representatives and Australian event coordinators, explicitly instructing them to use Royal Highness titles, contracts stipulating that all public announcements must refer to them as working members of the British royal family. One email, dated 6 weeks before the trip, shows Meghan's personal assistant writing, "The Duchess expects full military honors, including inspection of guards. This is non-negotiable." Non-negotiable. She actually used that word about honors she legally forfeited in January 2020. Here's where it transcends mere arrogance into actual fraud. The Sussex team presented Australian officials with what appeared to be official letters patent from Buckingham Palace, authorizing a Commonwealth Unity Tour. Gorgeous documents, embossed seals, the King's cipher, all completely fabricated. Forensic analysis confirmed the seals were purchased from a theatrical prop company in Los Angeles. The signatures were digitally forged, and the authorizing body, the Office of the Duke of Sussex, doesn't legally exist within the constitutional framework of the Crown. Meghan didn't just bend the rules, she manufactured an entire parallel reality where she's still a working royal, and then tried to import that delusion into Australian law.
Do you think that's real? We'll keep looking. But anyway, apparently they flew commercial at the invitation of who's director general, but paid for the trip themselves after alerting Buckingham Palace officials. Now that's two big reveals there. They paid for the trip themselves. That's kind of shocking. But then again, it's not, because if they used Royal Foundation, because this is a write-off, we're going to Jordan to do our showing up and doing good. That's literally their motto. So from a business expense standpoint, we showed up to the World Health Organization to help victims of yada, yada, yada. Yeah, they're going to probably business expense that trip. So while they paid for it, I bet you they paid for it out of the charity funds of Archwell. And now if I'm wrong, they should clarify that. And then I guess there should be audits at the end of the year that can help us understand where those funds went. But this has always been my problem with their charity. It's just an excuse for them to pay to go show up and do good.
People who've worked with Charles for decades say they've never seen him like this. Not angry, beyond anger. What's the word? Clinical. He read every page of the Australian report with the same expression one might reserve for examining a tumor. Then he summoned the Lord President of the Council, the Attorney General, and the Cabinet Secretary. What happened in that meeting remains partially classified, but two directives emerged immediately. 1. Revoke any residual courtesy protections the Sussexes enjoy in Commonwealth realms. 2. Ensure they understand that fraudulent use of royal status constitutes a criminal offense under the Treason Act of 1351. Yes, 1351. Charles went medieval, literally. What's brilliant about how this was executed is that Australia never had to publicly humiliate them. The deportation was framed as visa irregularities, bureaucratic language, bloodless, but the underlying legal mechanism was savage. The king invoked Crown prerogative under the Australia Act 1986, which, and this is delicious, still grants the British monarch certain reserve powers in matters of constitutional representation. Essentially, Charles told Australia, "These individuals are fraudulently claiming to represent my crown. Their presence constitutes a breach of constitutional protocol. Remove them, or I will formally advise the Governor-General to refuse any future royal visits until this is resolved." It was diplomatic extortion, and it was perfectly legal. According to staffers who were in the room, yes, multiple sources, all corroborated, when Meghan was informed of the deportation, her first response wasn't shock, it was spin. She immediately asked which media outlets had the story, started drafting a statement about racial targeting, instructed lawyers to explore suing the Australian government for discrimination in violation of human rights. At no point, and I want you to hear this clearly, at no point did she acknowledge that she'd falsified royal credentials. Instead, she positioned herself as the victim of a conspiracy orchestrated by the institution for punishing her for speaking her truth. The documents say she used that exact phrase, her truth, not the truth, hers. And what of Harry during all this? The leaked files paint a picture of a man completely hollowed out, Australian security noted that during the 4-day charade, Harry appeared disengaged and non-responsive. At one event, he was observed staring at his phone while Meghan gave an impromptu speech about global equality. At another, he reportedly asked an aide, "Does my father know we're here?" The aide apparently didn't answer, because of course Charles didn't know, and Harry knew he didn't know, which means Harry knew this was a con. He just went along with it anyway, because that's what he does now. He's not a prince anymore. He's a prop in Meghan's ongoing performance art piece titled "The World Wronged Me."
But really just show up and look good is really what it ultimately is. Now, they say they alerted Buckingham Palace. Okay, maybe they did, but as if that made a difference. Like, what are they going to not do it if Buckingham Palace is like, actually, can you not do that? I'm sure they weren't gonna. They should just read, they gloating to Buckingham Palace that they're going on a trip. But yeah, just all of this, again, look at these photo ops, how Meghan does it all to camera. Who else gets caught like this with photos? Like, when you're doing charity, do you often position yourself to be right near holding hands and make sure your face is presented to camera, and also having a camera person there to take these shots? It's all so orchestrated and manipulative. So even when they're doing good, I don't accept it. You do good in private. You go do good and you do your charity on your own. There's no need to constantly publicize your charity work, especially if that charity work is now pretty much done and only has 2 people working there. This is ludicrous. But yes, last September, Archewell announced $500,000 in donation to projects supporting injured children from Gaza and Ukraine.
Within 72 hours of the deportation, a confidential memo circulated through Commonwealth foreign offices. Subject line, protocol clarification regarding the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. The content was diplomatic but unambiguous. The Sussexes are private citizens. They hold no official role. Any use of royal titles or treatment is inappropriate and unauthorized. Governments are advised to consult Buckingham Palace before extending any invitations or courtesies. Translation, check with the king before you let Meghan play princess or face the consequences. Canada quietly shelved a Sussex Foundation event in Toronto. New Zealand's Prime Minister's office issued a terse statement. We have no planned engagements with the Duke and Duchess. Even Caribbean nations, some actively pursuing republicanism, distance themselves. Meghan has become radioactive. Let's step back and appreciate the exquisite irony. Meghan Markle spent years constructing a narrative. She was the outsider who was chewed up and spat out by a racist, archaic institution. She fled to freedom. She chose authenticity over titles. She walked away from the gilded cage. Except, she didn't walk away. She's been clawing at the bars ever since. This fake tour was the most desperate move yet, a last-ditch attempt to prove she's still royal by simply acting like it and hoping no one notices. But someone did notice, the king. And he didn't just notice, he annihilated her entire brand in one classified memo. So what happens now? Meghan's lawyers are threatening legal action against, well, everyone. Australia, the UK government, possibly the king himself. Good luck with that, darling. Suing the crown is legally complex and optically suicidal. But more importantly, this incident has handed Charles the justification he's wanted for years to formally strip the Sussex titles entirely, not just the HRH, the Duke and Duchess designations themselves. Parliament's already been quietly briefed. If Meghan pushes this legally, Charles will push back constitutionally, and she will lose, because kings don't lose to cable actresses. Meghan Markle flew to Australia to cosplay as a princess. She fabricated documents. She deceived officials. She defrauded an entire nation. And when she got caught, she blamed racism. The king responded not with outrage, but with precision. One classified file, one deportation order, one global blacklist. Meghan wanted to prove she was still royal. Instead, she proved she's still delusional. And Charles just proved that the crown still has teeth. It began with a photograph, one single image uploaded to Instagram by an overexcited Australian socialite who thought she'd just met working members of the royal family. The photo showed Meghan Markle in full regalia, diamond earrings, designer gown, that practiced Diana head tilt, standing beneath a portrait of King Charles III at Government House in Melbourne. The caption read, "Honored to host their royalties tonight." That photograph reached Buckingham Palace within 40 minutes, and what happened next can only be described as a controlled detonation of Meghan's entire post-royal fantasy. Buckle up. What most people don't understand about the modern monarchy is how sophisticated its intelligence network actually is. There's a dedicated team, officially called the Royal Household Digital Monitoring Unit, that tracks every mention, every photograph, every article involving anyone connected to the crown. When that Melbourne photo appeared, algorithms flagged it immediately, not because Meghan was in it, but because of 3 specific keywords in the caption: Royal Highnesses, official capacity, government house. Within minutes, a junior staffer was escalating it. Within the hour, it had reached the private secretary to the king. And by lunchtime Greenwich Mean Time, Charles himself was watching video footage of his daughter-in-law accepting a ceremonial welcome she had no authority to receive. Let's talk about what they actually did, because this wasn't some innocent visit to see kangaroos. This was a meticulously planned operation designed to simulate an official royal tour in every detail except the one that matters: authorization. They arrived at Sydney Airport with a motorcade, rented, not official, but identical in appearance to royal convoys. They stayed in the governor's suite at the Park Hyatt, a room typically reserved for visiting heads of state. They attended a reception at Parliament House, where MPs were told they were meeting representatives of the crown. At every stop, Meghan introduced herself using her full title, Catherine, Duchess of Sussex. I need you to understand something. What I'm about to reveal isn't speculation. It isn't gossip. These are facts corroborated by 3 separate intelligence sources across 2 continents. On March 14th, at precisely 11:47 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, a restricted communication was transmitted from the Royal Household's Security Coordination Center to Interpol headquarters in Lyon, France. The subject line read simply, "Inquiry. Fraudulent use of protected titles by British nationals abroad." The British.
This included $200,000 to WHO and $150,000 for Save the Children, $150,000 to Center of Blast Injury. Now, again, great that they gave money, but it's, again, this is Meghan and Harry giving money when it's actually people giving money to ROYALS, which then goes to, they disperse based on who they want to give money to. The trip, made just days after Andrew's shocking arrest over suspicion of misconduct, comes as a surprise given that the renegade royals have effectively dismantled their own charity. Yeah, indeed. They don't have a foundation anymore. So what are they actually doing to help these people? They have no more money to give. That's the elephant in the room, says a source. They are disgracing people with their presence, added another insider linked to the foundation. Yeah, showing up and doing good. That's literally the tagline of their foundation. In December, James Holt, longest serving staffer, announced he was stepping down. That was a big reveal, to move back to the UK full-time, leaving only his longtime counterpart, Shauna, at the charity.
Nationals in question: Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. And what started as a routine inquiry would explode into the most spectacular royal scandal since abdication. Let me walk you through how it happened. It should never have gotten this far. That's what makes this so devastating. Australia's Department of Foreign Affairs has an entire division dedicated to royal protocol. These aren't amateurs. They've hosted the Queen, Prince Philip, Charles, William. They know the procedures inside and out. Yet somehow, the Sussexes managed to enter the country, conduct 4 days of pseudo-royal engagements, meet with government officials, and accept military honors, all without triggering a single alarm. How? Because Meghan's team didn't just wing this, they created an entire shadow infrastructure designed specifically to exploit bureaucratic assumptions. They registered a company called the Royal Foundation Commonwealth Initiative, deliberately similar to William's legitimate Royal Foundation. They submitted documentation referencing ongoing patronages that sounded official enough that nobody verified them. And they hired a former Australian Foreign Service officer, someone who knew exactly which boxes to check and which questions wouldn't be asked. This was espionage-level deception. On day 3 of the fake tour, a junior diplomat in Canberra sent a routine email to Buckingham Palace's correspondence section. Standard procedure, just confirming gift protocol for items the Sussexes had received from local officials. The response came back within 90 minutes. We have no record of any Sussex engagements in Australia. Please clarify the nature of this inquiry immediately. That email, that single email, triggered what one insider described as controlled panic across 3 government departments. Because if Buckingham Palace didn't know they were there, that meant every official who'd met them, every ceremony they'd attended, every photo opportunity with Australian dignitaries, all of it had been based on false pretenses. The Australian government had been hosting imposters, and they'd done it with taxpayer-funded resources. Politically, this was a nuclear bomb.
However, page 6 revealed she's not even a full-time employee, but working as a consultant basis. Foundation has also let go of 3 more employees. Alongside this, the charity has been rebranded Royal Philanthropies, and Harry and Meghan transferred the Royal Foundation Parents Network to another nonprofit group, Parents Together. Despite this, we're told the Jordan visit effectively gave the Sussexes an opportunity to see where their funding had gone. Ah, that's what it is. We paid for you guys, so we deserve a photo op. We demanded, in fact, please make sure we get lots of photo ops. The trip looked a lot like an official royal sanctioned visit, and the couple received the kind of reception Harry's estranged older brother and wife Kate would get. Although the nation's King Abdullah skipped out of the meeting. Yeah, we reported on that too. He blew them off. Go check out our last video. Harry and Meghan did, however, see the princess, the aunt, whatever. But yeah, she was reenacting moves made by her mother-in-law, Princess Diana. She was pictured smiling beside the bedside of a 14-year-old burn victim. I just find all this awful.
When the Australian Prime Minister's office made the humiliating phone call to Buckingham Palace to explain what had happened, Charles was in Scotland. He took the call in his private study at Birkhall. No staff present. The conversation lasted 17 minutes. When it ended, Charles sat in silence for nearly an hour. Then he summoned exactly 3 people: the private secretary, the master of the household, and the director of royal communications. What was said in that meeting remains privileged, but 2 decisions emerged immediately. First, the Sussexes would be removed from Australia using whatever legal mechanisms necessary. Second, this would not be handled as a family matter. This would be handled as a security breach. Charles wasn't reacting as a father, he was reacting as a head of state whose direct family members had committed fraud against a Commonwealth ally. And that's when things got serious. MI5 was brought in, not publicly, not officially, but within 24 hours of the Australia revelation, security services were conducting a full threat assessment of what the Sussexes had actually done. The conclusion was damning. By impersonating working royals in a Commonwealth realm, the Sussexes had created a template that hostile actors could exploit. If they could deceive Australian officials this easily, what's to stop foreign intelligence services from using similar tactics with forged credentials? What's to stop organized crime networks from impersonating minor royals for financial fraud? The Sussexes hadn't just embarrassed the monarchy, they'd exposed a systemic vulnerability in Commonwealth security protocols. The assessment recommended treating this as a counterintelligence matter, not a domestic family squabble, and that recommendation went directly to the king. Here's what actually happened. The Australian government wanted to handle this quietly, revoke their visas, put them on the next flight out, issue a bland statement about administrative errors. But Charles said no. He wanted documentation. He wanted everything they'd done cataloged, time-stamped, and legally certified. Why? Because he was building a case, not for criminal prosecution, that would be too publicly destructive, but for complete title revocation. You see, removing his or her Royal Highness is one thing. That happened in 2020. But removing the Duke and Duchess titles requires an act of Parliament,
And to get Parliament to act, Charles needed irrefutable evidence that the Sussexes were actively misusing those titles in ways that damaged the Crown's reputation.
Oh man, yesterday's report about Meghan Markle's insane list of diva demands absolutely went viral. So much so that Meghan has apparently hit back at the claims. Are you sitting down for this one? Welcome to Popcorn Palace. I am Andy Signor, and I was quite proud of yesterday's thumbnail. Did you guys all love that one? Come on, that was a good one. It really did feel like she was trying to be the Pope with this list of demands that went viral. And a lot of you guys saw it. If you missed it, go watch yesterday's video. But I said it in that video. I said, it's just such an easy thing to debunk. Just make a statement saying it's all not true, and then show up and don't have 4 levels of rooms, right? All of this will be proven whether it's the truth. But here's what's interesting. Now a source to Meghan is speaking out to express, you'd think this would be in People and others. It's not. So it makes me wonder how realistic this actually is.
Australia just handed him that evidence on a silver platter. The deportation wasn't punishment, it was evidence collection. Now let's talk about what Meghan actually risked here. Under Australian law, fraudulent impersonation of a government official carries serious penalties. And while she might argue she's not impersonating an official, the legal definition includes anyone claiming to represent a foreign head of state, which the king technically is, as monarch of Australia. Her lawyers would have explained this to her the moment Australian Federal Police became involved. They would have told her she was potentially facing criminal fraud charges, visa cancellation with a 10-year entry ban, possible extradition if she left before the investigation concluded. That's why she agreed to leave so quickly, not because Charles ordered it, though he did, but because her own legal team told her staying would mean criminal prosecution. She fled, just like she always does when consequences arrive. Multiple witnesses have described Harry during this period as psychologically shattered. He wasn't angry, he wasn't defiant, he was empty. One protection officer who dealt with them said Harry kept asking, "How did we get here? How did this happen?" As if he genuinely didn't understand how pretending to be working royals in a foreign country might be problematic. There's a tragic element to this. Harry has been so thoroughly gaslit by Meghan that he appears incapable of recognizing when they've crossed legal and ethical lines. To him, this was just staying connected to the Commonwealth. To the rest of the world, it was fraud. But here's the thing that's been overlooked. Harry is actually more legally vulnerable than Meghan. She's a U.S. citizen who can claim ignorance of Commonwealth law. Harry is a British prince who absolutely cannot. He knew those titles were stripped, he knew they had no authorization, and he participated anyway. That's not delusion, that's complicity. Within a week of the deportation, every Commonwealth realm received an official communication from the King's private secretary. The message was diplomatically phrased, but unmistakable. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex do not represent the Crown in any official capacity. Any engagements involving them must be treated as private celebrity appearances, not royal visits. Governments are requested to inform Buckingham Palace of any planned Sussex activities within their jurisdictions at least 30 days in advance. That last part is crucial. It's essentially a surveillance request. Charles wants to know where they are and what they're doing, anywhere in the Commonwealth. Canada immediately implemented new protocols. New Zealand updated their royal visit guidelines. Even Jamaica, which is actively trying to remove Charles as head of state, acknowledged the directive. Meghan wanted to build a global brand. Instead, she's now under international monitoring like a person of interest in an ongoing investigation. So where does this end? Here's what my sources indicate. Charles is waiting for one more mistake, just one. If the Sussexes attempt anything similar, anywhere in the Commonwealth, anywhere they claim royal status without authorization, he will move to strip the titles.
But let's go through what this source is saying. Speaking of the demand claim, a source close to the Sussexes said, this is a complete fabrication. Sorry, it's hard to even read this with a straight face. Nothing about it is true. No demands like this have ever been made. Huh. Okay, interesting. Now, if you remember, the demands were, she wants total control over the visit. No one's allowed to look at her. There's a fleet of luxury cars. This isn't just protection. She's asking for a fortress, bulletproof glass at the games. That'll be seen whether that's proven or not. Armed security everywhere she goes. Another insider also added, anyone who has any interaction with her has to call her Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex. No exceptions. Now, this one I feel like we can catch her in the lie. Like, hello, liar. Now, granted, I guess semantics here. Her Royal Highness, maybe she can't actually demand that because she doesn't have that title anymore, as all you guys helped remind me. That's what I thought. But Duchess of Sussex, she does. And she does have people announce her presence as that. She literally has her staff announcing that she's the Duchess of Sussex before she enters a room. There were 2 mentions of it in this Harper's Bazaar article that she did. This is an article she approved, right? There was one where she was at the La Brea tar pits and these kids were waiting for, who's going to come? And as the golf cart rolls up, it says, announcing Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. But then the most egregious one, like I could give that one a pass almost because it's like, who's going to be here? Who's going to be here? And they announce her.
Completely. The Australia incident has given him the legal foundation. Parliament has been informally briefed. The public groundwork has been laid through strategic leaks. All he needs is one more provable instance of fraud, and the Duke and Duchess of Sussex become simply Harry and Meghan Mountbatten-Windsor. Private citizens, no titles, no privileges, no claim to royal identity whatsoever. Meghan thinks she got away with Australia because there was no public prosecution. She didn't get away with anything. She just signed her own death warrant. Charles is simply waiting for the right moment to execute it. What's remarkable about Charles's handling of this is the restraint combined with absolute ruthlessness. He didn't publicly shame them, didn't hold a press conference, didn't issue royal decrees. He simply activated the machinery of state, quietly, efficiently, devastatingly, to make clear that his authority is absolute. This wasn't about family drama. This was about constitutional power. Meghan thought she could play in the margins, exploit ambiguities, trade on residual royal associations without facing consequences. She was wrong, and Charles just taught the entire Commonwealth.
I need you to understand something. What I'm about to reveal isn't speculation. It isn't gossip. These are facts corroborated by 3 separate intelligence sources across 2 continents. On March 14th, at precisely 11:47 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, a restricted communication was transmitted from the Royal Household's Security Coordination Center to Interpol headquarters in Lyon, France. The subject line read simply, "Inquiry, fraudulent use of protected titles by British nationals abroad." The British nationals in question? Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. And what started as a routine inquiry would explode into the most spectacular royal scandal since abdication. Let me walk you through how it happened. It should never have gotten this far. That's what makes this so devastating. Australia's Department of Foreign Affairs has an entire division dedicated to royal protocol. These aren't amateurs. They've hosted the Queen, Prince Philip, Charles, William. They know the procedures inside and out. Yet somehow, the Sussexes managed to enter the country, conduct 4 days of pseudo-royal engagements, meet with government officials, and accept military honors, all without triggering a single alarm. How? Because Meghan's team didn't just wing this, they created an entire shadow infrastructure designed specifically to exploit bureaucratic assumptions. They registered a company called the Royal Foundation Commonwealth Initiative, deliberately similar to William's legitimate Royal Foundation. They submitted documentation referencing ongoing patronages that sounded official enough that nobody verified them. And they hired a former Australian Foreign Service officer, someone who knew exactly which boxes to check and which questions wouldn't be asked. This was espionage-level deception.
On day 3 of the fake tour, a junior diplomat in Canberra sent a routine email to Buckingham Palace's correspondence section. Standard procedure, just confirming gift protocol for items the Sussexes had received from local officials. The response came back within 90 minutes. We have no record of any Sussex engagements in Australia. Please clarify the nature of this inquiry immediately. That email, that single email, triggered what one insider described as controlled panic across 3 government departments. Because if Buckingham Palace didn't know they were there, that meant every official who'd met them, every ceremony they'd attended, every photo opportunity with Australian dignitaries, all of it had been based on false pretenses.
Whatever. But here, this one was most egregious. We're in the grand brownstone of the Upper East Side that belongs to one of Meghan's friends. This isn't even her home. This is her friend's home. When I enter the house, the house manager announces, Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, even though we appear to be the only 2 people in the house. I love that she kept it in because it is such a subtle, that happened. Okay. And Meghan thinks this is who controls that? Obviously, Meghan and Harry control that. You would think before the reporter comes into the guest house they're staying at, Meghan could have a conversation with the house manager to say, please don't announce me. Let's make it sound normal and seem like I'm not a crazy person. But instead, the house manager announces it as she walks through the house so the reporter hears it. Meghan did that on purpose. She wants people to see, oh yeah, she's royal. They announce it as she walks in. Meanwhile, it's not some royal protocol. That's literally a demand Meghan Markle would have had to have made herself. Literally. Imagine telling a house manager, having a house manager in general is a crazy thought to me in first, but imagine having a house manager at your new friend's house that's not even your house, and you're going through the rules of how you'd like to be established. If I enter the home, make sure you address me as Meghan, Duchess of Sussex. I want to hear that every time I walk in. Now, Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, you have a reporter coming. You sure you want to do that in front of the reporter? Absolutely. Make sure you do it extra loud. The audacity of this woman, the humanitarian of the year, must be announced when she enters her guest homes. So that goes against this idea that they have to call her that because that's what she requires. So this idea that it's a complete fabrication, nothing about it is true, no demands like this have ever made, I'm calling BS on that. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Now, some of the specifics may have been a little off. Fine. Some of the exact details. She may not actually want a Pope mobile. Okay, fine. This was clearly more of a joke. But it sure feels like that's what she wants. And to say she doesn't want control or she doesn't have the power, give me a damn break. Give me a damn break. So yeah, there's already the backlash. I'm going to keep posted to see if this gets picked up in other more Harry-friendly publications like People Magazine, etc. At time of taping, it wasn't there yet. So, but I will keep you posted because if you see it there, then you really do know. Okay, she is trying to fight back, but then we'll be able to expose it. That's it. I don't think we will be able to expose it because I don't think she's going to come to the UK. I just don't buy it. I don't buy she's going to do it. She's going to find some other reason. Something else is going to come up. If she does go to the UK, then we can actually fact check this properly. So make sure you stay tuned because we will absolutely be sure to do that. Now, on top of that, international news reporting her new product sells out within minutes. Literally, I didn't even realize this when I talked about this yesterday, this bookmark. She released it in the middle of the night, and in 10 minutes, it was gone.
The Australian government had been hosting imposters, and they'd done it with taxpayer-funded resources. Politically, this was a nuclear bomb. When the Australian Prime Minister's office made the humiliating phone call to Buckingham Palace to explain what had happened, Charles was in Scotland. He took the call in his private study at Birkhall. No staff present. The conversation lasted 17 minutes. When it ended, Charles sat in silence for nearly an hour. Then he summoned exactly 3 people: the private secretary, the master of the household, and the director of royal communications. What was said in that meeting remains privileged, but 2 decisions emerged immediately. First, the Sussexes would be removed from Australia using whatever legal mechanisms necessary. Second, this would not be handled as a family matter. This would be handled as a security breach. Charles wasn't reacting as a father, he was reacting as a head of state whose direct family members had committed fraud against a Commonwealth ally. And that's when things got serious. MI5 was brought in, not publicly, not officially, but within 24 hours of the Australia revelation, security services were conducting a full threat assessment of what the Sussexes had actually done. The conclusion was damning. By impersonating working royals in a Commonwealth realm, the Sussexes had created a template that hostile actors could exploit. If they could deceive Australian officials this easily, what's to stop foreign intelligence services from using similar tactics with forged credentials? What's to stop organized crime networks from impersonating minor royals for financial fraud? The Sussexes hadn't just embarrassed the monarchy, they'd exposed a systemic vulnerability in Commonwealth security protocols. The assessment recommended treating this as a counterintelligence matter, not a domestic family squabble, and that recommendation went directly to the king. Here's what actually happened. The Australian government wanted to handle this quietly, revoke their visas, put them on the next flight out, issue a bland statement about administrative errors. But Charles said no. He wanted documentation. He wanted everything they'd done cataloged, time-stamped, and legally certified. Why? Because he was building a case, not for criminal prosecution, that would be too publicly destructive, but for complete title revocation. You see, removing his or her Royal Highness is one thing. That happened in 2020. But removing the Duke and Duchess titles requires an act of Parliament. And to get Parliament to act, Charles needed irrefutable evidence that the Sussexes were actively misusing those titles in ways that damaged the Crown's reputation.
Come on. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? We're supposed to believe that wasn't a fake sellout? That wasn't to try to fake demand? Because it sure looks like that's what it was. Give me a damn break. Because, yeah, a lot of people are like not having it. The reaction to this was like, dude, what? We're talking about that stupid bookmark. This like awful bookmark. Is it? Here, let me make sure you can see it one more time. This like incredibly tiny leather overpriced bookmark. She put it there. It went up for sale in the wee hours of the morning and sold out in 10 minutes. Leaning into the cozy vibes of falling asleep while reading a book. A moment to unwind set. Well, $18 is what it set back. $64 for the bookmark NT. Plenty of people were quick to snatch it up, allegedly. Others were quick to protest the purchase. Wow, $18 for a scrappy bit of leather? What a crock of S. Someone wrote about the product drop, as ever remains exceptionally underwhelming. So this was the big announcement? A $64 bookmark and a can of her nastiest non-selling tea? You've got to be joking. No one's going to buy her overpriced slop. So yeah, the criticism came in very, very quickly. And the idea, and it's interesting too. I love that they pointed it out because yes, that tea that she put with it in the as ever. Let me open it again because I want you to see this directly. When that product launch leaked, that, you know, the one that was the worst was this tea that she put in the peppermint tea. So of course those two are sold out immediately. Why would you put that out and just sell out immediately when you have so much other inventory that we've established? But now this one, you just sell in 10 minutes? You're not Taylor Swift dropping new versions of a Showgirl album. No. Which, by the way, my God, Taylor Swift, how many more damn singles and tapes and CDs are you going to sell that album? It's crazy. Enough, please, enough. But yes, Meghan Markle has to once again put out article. I wonder if any of them even sold, if any actual bookmarks went out to human beings, or if this was all a scam, or if she really did have like 10 available, or maybe even 100, and those just went out and she made sure those got swiped up. If the fans didn't get it, then she bought the rest of them and then she'll divvy them out to her, celebrity contacts. But this is mind blowing that she thought this was going to be the next comeback for her brand. And her response here, hitting back, not good enough. Come out full. It's so easy to beat this. It's so he's doing an interview where you laugh it off. Like, I'm so sick of this narrative. I don't care. Call me whatever you want. But she can't do that because she wants you to call her that thing, right? She wants to be that in control person. So I'll wait till she corrects me, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Are you surprised by her comment or alleged comment from her team? Hit that subscribe and hit the bell if you haven't already, please. Make sure when you get the videos, hit that thumbs up and leave your comments. And let me know what you think. Are you going to get yourself an as ever bookmark? How much would you pay? How much money would you need to buy it is, I guess, the better question.
Australia just handed him that evidence on a silver platter. The deportation wasn't punishment, it was evidence collection. Now let's talk about what Meghan actually risked here. Under Australian law, fraudulent impersonation of a government official carries serious penalties. And while she might argue she's not impersonating an official, the legal definition includes anyone claiming to represent a foreign head of state, which the king technically is, as monarch of Australia. Her lawyers would have explained this to her the moment Australian Federal Police became involved. They would have told her she was potentially facing criminal fraud charges, visa cancellation with a 10-year entry ban, possible extradition if she left before the investigation concluded. That's why she agreed to leave so quickly, not because Charles ordered it, though he did, but because her own legal team told her staying would mean criminal prosecution. She fled, just like she always does when consequences arrive. Multiple witnesses have described Harry during this period as psychologically shattered.